what I'm about to say can be insulting or offensive to some people. So if you don't want to hear that, feel free to mute it or, skip ahead like 30 seconds or so. So this truck's driving down the street and there's two guys in it. And then all of a sudden they stick their head out the window and yell out, "What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the When Wednesday, where we upload an episode every single week." Before we get into it, huge shout out to Jackie Satterall and her husband Nico for chilling with us and being the first guest on our podcast. If you have not seen the episode yet, it's the last episode right before this one that we had on, that we uploaded.
Yep.
And it was an amazing episode. The energy there was great. It was like that best friend energy. I thought I was your best friend, but Jackie, man, she brings it to a whole nother level. Jackie, we love you. And, we can share Sopa. She's my best friend too, and you're her best friend. And, we'll share her.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie. We love you.
Yeah. You guys are awesome. Nico, big shout out to you as well. You were just chilling off to the side and, just listening
that
to them.
Husband energy.
Yeah, that sideline. We're your supporters. We're your cheerleaders on the side.
They are.
Yeah.
So you guys might have read from the title today what we are talking about. We're talking about growing up Asian American.
Yep.
And before we get started, we are going to share what we're drinking today.
Yeah.
So, ta-da! Can you guys see this? If you're watching on YouTube, you can.
Gotta do this thing.
I know, like that.
If you're watching on YouTube, we're showing you what we're drinking. And it is 7 Leaves. Boba tea, 7 Leaves, coffee, and tea.
So we love 7 Leaves. Well, I love 7 Leaves.
Yeah.
I think their coffee is amazing. Their tea is amazing. Their matcha is amazing. I love it. Their prices are really good. And I wish 7 Leaves would sponsor today's episode. I'm just going to put that out there.
7 Leaves, anybody, the manager, whoever owns the 7 Leaves around us, if you're watching this,
sponsor our drinks
sponsor
every
us,
week.
man. Sponsor this episode or sponsor the next episode.
So I'm drinking a Japanese matcha tea. If you guys know matcha tea, this has soy milk in it. I did not order a Japanese matcha soy. I said a matcha tea.
Yeah. We're not trying to call you out, 7 Leaves.
Oh,
No.
No.
It's just a minor mistake. It happens.
No, totally fine. And the reason why I didn't bring this back was because I actually had Tommy pick it up for me. And he's like, the drink was green. So I thought it was fine. Because normally I order the drinks, I pick them up. And normally this is a lot darker than this is. So it just has soy milk in it. And you know what I mean?
I was just making sure I picked up a green drink. And that's what it was.
So I'm not even mad. But not going to lie, this would be empty and gone if it was just the matcha tea.
That's true. And then I have a strawberry hibiscus tea drink. It's amazing. It's really good. It's got a slice of lime in it. If you need a nice, just refreshing, crisp tea drink, strawberry hibiscus is your choice at 7 Leaves.
The way to go. I get boba. Tommy doesn't get boba. So let us know what you guys are drinking while you're listening to today's podcast. And yeah, let's just go ahead and dive in.
Yeah. So this episode, as we mentioned earlier, growing up Asian American, and really what we want this episode to be is to spread awareness of the recent events that has happened, that are happening, and talk about our experiences growing up Asian American and what that was like, right?
Yeah, we want to just shed some light and take a moment to share what has happened in these recent events. And if you guys haven't read the news or seen the news, there was a shooting in Atlanta at a spa where 8 people died.
Yeah.
And 6
I think it was at multiple spas, right?
Yeah, two. Okay, and also, you guys, this is what we know at this moment. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah, exactly.
We are not the news outlets. So
we are not news reporters, no.
Do your own research. This is what we
This is the current information that we've done our research on. And this is what we have as of right now.
Yeah, don't come for us for any misinformation because we've really tried to not put misinformation out there. But there was the shooting and it was so heartbreaking. And we are both still affected by it. We think about it and talk about it every single day. And 6 people out of the 8 were Asian people. And so that happened. And then there were attacks on elderly Asian people in the Bay and probably other places that I'm forgetting. But, in our backyard, you can say, in our cities, an hour away.
It's pretty crazy.
There are people getting attacked, elderly Asian people. So with all of that on the news and all of my Asian friends reaching out to us, talking to us about it, even not my Asian friends talking to us about it, it's been really heavy on our hearts. And we created this podcast to share our lives with you. And so in this podcast, we're going to process and reflect on how it was growing up Asian American.
Yeah, and also process, how we're feeling, our thoughts on all those recent events that has happened as well.
It's definitely super sad, and we've been worried. Well, I think I've been more worried, but about the safety of our family, especially our parents who are older. Mm-hmm. My parents are a little older than Tommy's parents, and so I'd consider them more elderly than your parents. Yeah. But even my nieces and stuff. Even someone told me, I was saying how I was going out and they're like, oh, don't get shot. I mean, that's just like the conversations we're having now.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about, right?
And I didn't think it was very funny, but it's just, it's kind of the truth though. It's like, be careful.
Yeah. And, right now there's that tension and, within the last week, week and a half, it has been a heavier week, especially, for us and the Asian American community. And, everyone's processing it right now and everyone's processing it differently.
And it's okay to take your time to process what's happening. If you're Asian, if you're not Asian, there's so many emotions that we all feel and we take this all in differently. And so I just want to tell everyone that it's okay if you don't have a response immediately after something like this happens. It's okay to take your time to process and to be thoughtful in how you want to talk about it and share it. And Tommy and I have gone through this podcast together literally probably like 5 times already, kind of processing what we're going to talk about and making sure we're honoring, the lives that were lost while also sharing our experiences growing up Asian American. So we hope that you guys can just, kind of sit back and listen to what it was like growing up Asian American in, I guess you could say Indiana, right? Or the Midwest.
Yeah,
right?
Let's start in the Midwest. That's where we're from. To now, yeah. I mean, I was actually born in Atlanta, Georgia, but I would say I was raised in Indiana.
Yeah.
And so growing up, let's talk about, the positives.
Yeah.
I like to start with the positives. And, growing up Asian American in America, in the Midwest, what were the positives of that? And I think the first thing for me the first thought that comes to my mind would be food.
Yeah.
Like food, I just love Vietnam. So I'm half Vietnamese, half Laotian. If you're a new viewer, and so I love Vietnamese food, Lao food.
Love it.
We just visited our family, and they asked us what we wanted to eat. I'm like, I just want
Only
a home
Asian
cooked
food.
meal. I want a home cooked meal because that's what I'm used to eating growing up. We didn't always eat American food growing up.
Yeah.
And I think it was kind of rare, actually, at least for me, for my family.
Oh yeah. I didn't have grilled cheese until I went to college. I'm like, what is that? I never ate cheese. Didn't really care for it that much. I mean, we'd have pizza here and there, but my mom didn't even know how to make pasta because that's just not what we eat.
Yeah. So we grew up eating pho. I love pho.
Yeah.
Eating I forgot it's called cơm tam. For all my Vietnamese viewers, correct me if I pronounce that wrong, which is basically rice and pork or rice and beef or rice and chicken. And there's the special
sauce.
house fish sauce. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I would eat that
food.
dish every day if I could.
Yeah, we love Vietnamese food. And I think one of the best things about growing up Asian American is that we have a palette, I guess, of different types of food and things like fish sauce and shrimp paste and all these things and lemongrass and all this stuff. It's not weird to us. And I think it allowed us to be open to other cultures and different types of foods where we're I would say I'm a particular eater. I know what I like and I know what I don't like. But I have tried so many different things that people would find disgusting or weird. But I'm this is just the stuff we eat. This is my culture.
Yeah.
And I think it's beautiful that as Asian Americans, we have that. And our parents taught us to eat different food,
Yeah. And I love that you brought up it opened us up to try other foods. So it's not just Asian food, but trying Middle Eastern food, trying different types of European food, even Indian food.
Yeah,
there's a lot of Indian food here in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And, I love that I'm able to have this kind of open perspective of trying new foods and not being scared off because it's different.
Yeah.
And of course, American food too. American food's great.
Yeah. And the smell of different things, I don't know. It just doesn't affect me at all because I'm used to it. It actually brings me comfort to see that type of stuff. For me, I'm so thankful that our family taught us traditions of respect and knowing where we came from and just the small things that we do in our day-to-day life now that our parents taught us growing up. And I really want to teach that to our kids. And
yeah, no, I love that. I love like the tradition and like the culture, right? Like growing up, we were just like indulged into that. I know for me, something that I was told growing up was like to never forget, you know, where you come from. Yes, we were born in America. Yes, we were pretty much raised in America.
Well, I was.
Yeah, I mean, both of us were, right? We lived in America like all of our lives. Born and raised.
First generation American.
You know, very westernized like culture, but also like having parents who are immigrant parents. They taught us a lot of like what we don't know, like that we can't find here. Yes, sure, we can find it in the communities here within the Asian communities, but there's nothing like it when it's coming like firsthand from, you know, from the country basically, and which is our parents.
Yeah.
And I just love like learning more about that, like our heritage and our culture and the history, because we don't learn, you know, Lao Vietnamese history really in the U.S. In terms of in history class,
which makes sense.
We learn a little bit like Southeast Asian history, but we don't really dive like super deep into it.
Yeah. So I think that is a huge good memory that I have, and just the way that we treat other people and elders especially is something that was like ingrained in my upbringing. Yeah. So yeah, I think those are some positives. We also have family overseas. So like whenever we go overseas, we have like a personal tour guide, and they are local. They speak the language. They make sure, you know, we're good.
Yeah, and it adds like a comfort, definitely. Like you're going to this brand new place, or this place maybe you've never been to. Maybe that's a Laos or a Thailand or Vietnam, you know, wherever that may be. And when we go there, we have family, so we can reach out to them and stay with them. And they're showing us like all the local things to do, and just the ins and outs of, you know, of that country.
Yep.
And if we were to go by ourselves, just as tourists, we may not get to really be indulged into that culture.
Yeah, I could go to Thailand, Laos, Vietnam. We got people. We got our family that we're so thankful for. And thank you guys for watching, because I know some of you do.
Yeah.
And I think to kind of segue into other experiences. So growing up Asian American, Tommy and I are both first generation Asian Americans. Or first generation Americans, I guess you could say. Yeah. And with that being said, our parents are immigrants from Laos and Vietnam. Both my parents are from Laos. Tommy's parents are from Laos and Vietnam. His dad's from Vietnam. His mom's from Laos. That alone makes you have to work really, really, really hard, because they came with not a lot, and they came as refugees. And well, my parents did. My family did.
Yeah. Well,
you do?
Both our parents.
Okay. And so that life is hard. It is a lot of hard work, a lot of struggle, working like odd end jobs to make ends meet. Like my family worked in really hard physical labor, you know, conditions. And I've seen my parents come home from the factory smelling legit like metal, like from the factory.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, and it was really hard seeing. It was nice to see how hard my parents were, because they taught me hard work at a very young age. And I think that's how, I don't know, it shaped a lot of how I work now. Like I don't expect anything to ever be handed to me. I just know I need to work really hard for my life and the things that I want.
Yeah, and I love that. And, you know, that's one thing with being Asian or first generation Asian American, is that we still have our immigrant parents, right? You know, from the motherland, from Laos, from Vietnam. And then, you know, we're born here in America. When you're a second generation American, you know, your parents are going to be from America, right? And what Sopal's referring to is what I call the immigrant mindset. So immigrants who fled here, who came to America, they came for a better life. They came here, and there's a reason why, because either because their country was under attack, or it just wasn't safe to be in their country. Yeah. And maybe it was getting taken over by communism, you know, whatever it is, everyone has a reason, right? And the common reason people come here is for a better life, or an improved quality of life. And when you come as an immigrant, and I see this with my parents, I see this with her parents and her family, and my family as well, they're coming here to work hard. They want to build and create that American dream. That's why they came to America, is to live the American dream, is to work hard and to buy a house, to raise a family, and to ultimately raise their family in a place where there are more opportunities. Yeah,
and I think, you know, segueing again into the not so positive, I guess you could say, because we want to keep it real in this podcast.
Oh yeah.
And one thing that really inspired me to talk about this is with all of the the real, unfortunate events of people losing their lives and Asian people in our community dying for no good reason, it honestly didn't really surprise me. And I don't mean to say that in a way that doesn't honor, the lives that were lost. It's just that so much of racism and all the stuff I have experienced my whole entire life that I'm almost like numb to it. And in light of everything that's happened, it kind of brought back everything that I've suppressed over the years. And I started getting feelings of anger and like anxiety and worry and just like really, really bad anger because I've suppressed so much of what's happened to me.
Yeah.
So we wanted to just share some stories with you guys and just keep it real. And maybe if you guys have had similar experiences, share it with us in the comments below, or you can DM us on Instagram.
Yeah. So growing up Asian Americans, definitely up and down, right? You have your positives and then your negatives. Yeah. So we'll share some of our experiences more so on, I guess, not the not so positive side.
It's not all negative because we don't want to make this podcast like a negative thing. But like my first encounter of anything like feeling different, racism, mine was like in kindergarten, and I was playing on the playground. I went to a really small school. I was the only Asian kid out of my whole entire grade. It's safe to say probably the whole school. I don't think I saw any other Asian kids growing up. And basically there was white kids, me, and then Mexican kids. That's all it was in my town. And like I lived 20 minutes away from the Amish area. That gives you any context of like where I grew up, and I loved it. Looking back on it now, I'm so thankful that I grew up there. But at that moment as a kindergartner, preschooler, I was like, I'm really different. I don't like this. I want to blend in. I don't want to be Asian because I just want to fit in, right? Whatever fitting in looks like. In a kindergarten, this guy came up to me. He's like making fun of me for being Asian. You had the ching chong, stupid jokes. And I was like, oh, that felt bad. So I remember as little as kindergarten.
Yeah, which is crazy, right? To growing up Asian American, you experience that at such an early age. And then when you hear that kind of stuff, you become confused. You're like, what is going on? Like, why are they calling me this? Why are they laughing at me?
Yeah.
Like, and then you start to question yourself, like, why am I different?
Yeah,
I don't want to be different. I don't want to be laughed at. I don't want to be called names.
Yeah, and you're so young. And it's like, I'm not going to go talk to my parents about that. I don't know why I didn't. Some kids do. I didn't. I was just like processing it on my own.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And for me, talking about first encounters, our first experience of like realizing that we were different, in some way that we didn't fully understand yet. For me, I think it was around, from second, around, like grade school, like second, maybe fourth grade, just around that time, that 2 to 3 year span. For me, I remember, this little girl, right? She was like young, like maybe she was in kindergarten or something. And, I was in second, third, fourth grade. And I just remember her pointing at me and just saying, "You're Chinese," and just like laughing at me.
Ew.
First off, like I'm not Chinese, right?
True.
And
why are there growing up, everyone's like, all they thought was like everyone's Chinese. I'm like, you're so ignorant. Like, there's more to Asia than China.
I think part of that too is growing up in the Midwest, where we were the minority, and there's small communities of Asian immigrants and Asian Americans, in where we lived, and so we were always we were always mistaken for being Chinese.
Technically, I'm a quarter.
You're a quarter. So she was, or if you were,
it wasn't wrong.
If you were ever called Chinese,
it wasn't. I didn't think it was offensive. I was just like, there's more to life, like more to Asians.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was because I'm like, that's not me. Chinese, like, why are you calling me something that I'm not? And so that's even with Chinese people, there's a difference there depending on the region you come from. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that happened at a young age for Tommy and I, and then our names. And so you guys know, I'm working on kind of erasing Sophie from like my identity. I don't know how that's going to be possible because it's been my identity since I was in preschool. But my real name, like you guys know, is Sopa Bun Pisai Win now. But, we changed my name, changed to a nickname for people to stop making fun of my name and for people to stop saying my name incorrectly. And I didn't want to embrace my name that my parents gave me because Sopa in, the Lao culture, the H is silent. And so, but it's spelled with the H, Sopha. So it looks like sofa.
In the American pronunciation.
And English pronunciation.
Yeah.
So I couldn't blame my teachers, but like the fact that they didn't care to be like, oh, how do you pronounce it? Or like, there was no like genuine desire to like want to call me by my real name. They were just like sofa, and all the kids, sofa. It's like, as a kid wants to be called that?
Like a couch.
A couch.
Like a sectional couch.
Yeah. Like that doesn't
Sofa.
feel very good.
Yeah.
But it's like now as an adult, I'm like, man, that's my name. Like that's my culture. That's who I am. That's the name my parents gave me. And so I'm working on changing that. But like at a young age, I was already dealing with like, that's like your identity is your name.
Yeah. And I love that you're embracing like who you are, right?
Yeah.
Like, don't call me Sophie anymore. Call me Sopa, because that's
if
who
you
I
want
am.
to call
that's
me
my name.
Sophie, that's okay, because that's like probably how I introduce myself to you. So don't feel like you have to change it. But if you call me Sopa, I welcome you with that, and you totally should and can. But I take no offense if you call me Sophie, because that is still my name.
You know what's crazy too? Like as we're talking through this, like what I realize is that we change who we are, how we pronounce our name, or whatever it is, for the convenience of other people.
And I wish I never did that. I really wish I never did.
Even for me growing up, so my last name, right? If you were to look at my last name, NGUYEN, you would think it's like NGUYEN, which I got all the time. Nguyen, Nguyen,
NGUYEN.
all of it, like everything. Some people don't even try to pronounce my last name. They're just like Tommy N.
They're like so fun. I'm like, can you not be so annoying? Like, just try.
I got it all. Like my last name is the pronunciations, right? And it makes sense. Like,
I mean, your name is a little bit harder.
I give grace because it is a weird name to pronounce until you really understand it. But growing up as well, like I told people my last name was Nguyen. I was like, hey, the G is silent. Don't worry about it. It's just Nguyen. And in reality, that's not how you actually pronounce my name. So, I mean, so today I tell people it's Wen. And that's how it's pronounced, Wen. That's like the American accent. But when you actually want to pronounce my last name, like Nguyen, that's how you actually pronounce it. So my name is Tommy Nguyen. But I just tell people like win or lose, because again, it's making it a little bit more convenient for those who just don't understand. And I give grace towards that. And that's okay. Yeah.
Exactly. So we had to deal with the whole name thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we shared some of our childhood experiences. Now moving on to, I guess, adulthood. I'm going to skip past some of the high school, middle school stuff, because really it was just, there was a lot of racism that happened, but there are some also amazing people that I met too. Yeah. Like one of my best friends in middle school, she's white. Her name's Stephanie. Love you, Stephanie, if you're watching or listening. She actually called me Sopa, and I really appreciated that. She would eat pho with our family. You know, I think that was like, I'm so thankful for those experiences of my friends who were way super, super different than me, accepting me with open arms and genuinely being such a great friend. So shout out to the people who were respectful, and for the people who weren't so nice, I've moved on.
All right. So basically what we're saying is we've experienced this throughout our lives, at every stage of our lives.
Every year there's something.
Yeah, so let's go to college. Now we're in college.
So now that we shared some of our elementary school experiences, you know, moving towards like middle school and high school, definitely experienced a lot of racism all the time, racial slurs.
And this was like subtle stuff.
Subtle, yeah, and very ignorant comments. And, you know, I was still trying to embrace my culture growing up. But I mean, I went to a school where there just wasn't a lot of Asian people that looked like me. And so part of me just wanted to blend in and fit in. But then I had a friend, her name was Stephanie. She was white and she was amazing. I say her race just because I don't want to just categorize people that like I went to school with that were like awful, because they weren't all awful. You know, it was like one or two people a year. You know, it wasn't anything like that bad. But Stephanie like called me Sopa. She would come over and try pho, and like it was amazing. She was a really, really great friend and a great example of how to be open arms to someone who looks completely different than you. Stephanie was like blue eyes, blonde hair, beautiful, and I'm like an Asian girl. Like, I don't know. I don't think people expected us to be friends, but like it was amazing. So yeah, shout out to you, Stephanie, if you're watching or listening to the podcast. And so moving on to college years. So because I think I experienced so much tension being Asian American growing up, I kind of closed myself off a little bit to people who didn't look like me, because I just had really negative experiences with a lot of them where I was like, you guys are just judging me anyway. So I actually found a lot of Asian friends like Jackie. Like, it was so fun.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the same was true for you. Like, I mean, you had some friends that weren't Asian, but like Jeremy and all them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. And so there was a shooting at Purdue where one guy was after one specific person. So it wasn't like a mass shooting. It was very directed towards one person. It was really, really, really sad day. And his name was Andrew Bolt, if you guys remember that. So Andrew was the TA who unfortunately lost his life due to this guy shooting him, right? Killing him.
Yeah.
And it was a really sad day. Emotions were high. It was all over the news. And this girl, so I rushed a sorority at that time. It was my sophomore year, and I was just checking it out, Greek life. I'm like, I don't know, we'll see what it's all about. I'm in college, just try this. And so I ended up rushing the sorority, and in that you have like a group me, like a group chat. And basically when this all happened, everyone's freaking out in the group chat, right? And then she messages, what if all the Asians form a cult and kill all of us?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I was angry. I was like,
oh yeah,
angry that someone would say that to me. So basically I went off on this girl. I made her, like, I literally went off. I was so mad, so upset. I'm like, can you not be so insensitive to what just happened? Like, Andrew just lost his life, and stop trying to say Asian, like this whole Asian thing. Like, that's so coming out of left field. Like, the shooter wasn't even Asian. He was white.
Yeah. And I mean, this was before. So when it was all happening, we were on class and we were getting a bunch of texts. We were getting like the emergency Purdue texts. And I was getting texts from all my friends.
And I'm managing Purdue social media at the time, so I'm hearing everything.
And I'm texting her, and everyone's just asking, like, where you at? Where you at? Like, do you see anything? Like, what's going on? Because at the time, there was so many unknowns.
Yeah.
Like, is this like a mass shooting? Is this, is there multiple shooters? Because there was a bunch of rumors that started just kind of flooding.
Yeah, Twitter was going wild.
On Twitter, everywhere, everyone's just texting, oh, I see a guy with a gun. And, the officers, like the police, they were on the scenes very, very quickly because they're trying to figure out what's going on too. This is a big campus. If you've ever been to Purdue, it houses 40 to 50,000 students. So it's a big campus, and just nobody knows what is going on.
Yeah, and the fact that someone would say that was so insensitive, and this is just like one of the so many comments that we have received, like stupid, ignorant comments that were so painful to hear. I'm like, why are you directing this towards Asian people? I mean, I was like ready to throw hands on this girl, like literally wanted to beat her up. I was
honestly,
so angry.
It had nothing to do with Asian people.
Nothing to do. And it was so insensitive. And I'm like, can we not? And the girl like avoided me forever. She never said sorry. And I ended up dropping that sorority after like, I don't know, a month or something, because I was like over it. Basically, everyone made me feel bad for attacking this girl. Not attacking. Let me take that back.
Well, you
calling her out.
You called her out. You exposed her for who she was.
Yeah, I called her out. I was like, dude, you're rude. Like, basically made her pretty much feel bad about it. And I don't really regret that, because I felt like I had to stand up for my people. You can't just categorize Asian people going to kill people. Like, you don't just say stuff like that.
Yeah, it's very insulting.
It's super insulting. And so basically I left that sorority. All of them made me feel like I did something wrong by making her, I don't know, cry.
To me, which is crazy.
I'm like, girl, you cried, but like, get over it. Like, don't be saying dumb stuff. Basically put her in her place. And so that's kind of like one experience I had. And I think I've moved on from that. I have forgiven her. It's not about me. It's not about the Asian people. I did what I had to do. And I've honestly moved on. I don't even remember the girl very much anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So do you have any experience?
Yeah. So, I mean, like we said, we have several, but we're just going to let you in on some of them. So for me, this is college at Purdue. And this was actually, I want to say, my senior year.
Yeah, I think so.
It's either my second to last semester or my very last semester. So I was with my friends, and it was a group of 4 of us, 4 guys, and we're all Asian. We're Asian guys, and I'm Lao Vietnamese. My other friend is Chinese. My other friend's Korean, and then my other friend is Indonesian. And I think we're just grabbing lunch, and this was like on a Sunday. So our apartment was near like this area called the Chauncey area, which is like where all the food and restaurants are, where we go and usually grab like lunch, like Chipotle or something. And we're just walking down the street, getting ready to grab Chipotle, or I think we were coming back. I forget. We were just on the sidewalk walking down, and all of a sudden, and actually before I tell the complete story, what I'm about to say can be insulting or offensive to some people. So if you don't want to hear that, feel free to mute it or, skip ahead like 30 seconds or so. So this truck's driving down the street, and there's 2 guys in it. And then all of a sudden they stick their head out the window and yell out, "Chink, go back to China." And then we're just walking on the street and we're like,
so
dumb.
We
were like, what the F this guy say? And then so we yelled back, we yelled back some choice words. And at that time, I got really heated. I wanted those guys to stop the truck, get out,
and throw down,
because I was ready to throw some hands. Like I didn't care. Like I wanted to throw hands
because like we said, we suppress so much, right? And it's just like,
and it's just like it keeps adding up, right? And then you get to a point where it just kind of blows over. And
that was the thing for Tommy.
You get to a point where it's just like,
enough.
I'm gonna do whatever, to hurt you, because that's how I'm feeling at that time.
Right. You guys are just literally getting your food, and some guys just screaming at you, go back to China. It's like, I'm from Indiana, bro. Like,
and the thing is,
it's
unprovoked. It's not like we were talking to him and like whatever. It's just, these two guys driving on the street, see a group of, Asian guys, and then you have the audacity to yell at us. Like, come on now.
Yeah. So those are just like some experiences that we've had. And, we feel for you guys. If this has ever been your shoes, please let us know, your stories. If you don't want to share it publicly, just message us. Because we want to hear your stories and really just like unite together and stick up for each other and be there for each other. You don't even need to be Asian. You know what I mean? Like whoever you are, if you've experienced stuff like this, just let us know. Like we want to partner with you guys.
Definitely. We want to continue this conversation as well.
Yeah.
Like Sopa said, like share your stories, and if you don't feel comfortable, DM us.
Yeah. And I think one last thing that I kind of want to share about college is like being Asian in a very tech heavy. So I was in web design and development. So, I'm coding, designing, blah, blah, blah. Very tech oriented major. There weren't a lot of girls in my major, and especially the girls mostly were mostly actually were Asian girls. For whatever reason, that's just the field they choose, right?
Yeah.
And I was getting help from my professor for office hours, which is kind of like one-on-one help, and other people can go into. So at that time, it happened just to be me in these office hours, which now looking back, I would never do again. Like a young girl with a male professor all by yourself. Like I would rather have you in there next time, or whatever. Never again. So basically we are working on a coding project. Nothing exciting about talking about code. You know what I mean? It's literally just a project. I'm just trying to pass the class and move on and get out of here. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden this guy looks at me and he's like, women from Laos are very beautiful. Like what the heck am I supposed to say to that?
Like randomly.
Creepy. Meanwhile, you look over his desk, picture of his wife and his kids in a picture frame right there. Like I was mortified. I was literally so grossed out. I was like, thank you. And mind you, I'm like younger, not as much experience of dealing with this stuff. You know what I mean? I basically just almost graduated from high school. I'm like a kid still.
Yeah.
And so I did not know how to even answer that question. I mean, that comment, I was just like, thank you. Thank you for your help. Bye. Never talk to him ever again. And I would like sit next to my guy friends because there were a bunch of guys in that class. Mm-hmm. But like I felt safer sitting with my guy friends in my classes because I just felt like he wouldn't approach me or anything. That's just part of my life growing up Asian American.
Yeah. I mean, even just like growing up as an Asian woman as well, right? Just as a woman.
Yeah. And I felt very like it was, I don't know. I think that so much like that's one instance and there's more that I don't really feel like sharing, but like, that's why I like wearing like baggy clothes when I'm going out and like not wearing super tight stuff all the time and not really showing off like my body or anything. And, I don't think there's anything wrong with girls that do that. I always tell Tommy, man, I wish I could just like wear a cute crop top because everything's cropped nowadays and it's so cute. Like I love it. But like so much of what's happened in my life makes me just want to like kind of not shine, not be me.
Yeah. Which is crazy, right? It's like the experiences, like I don't blame you for it. And all the experiences that you've encountered, that you've had, leading up to your life to today, has shaped a lot of the way you behave in a way, right? And you're behaving in a way, it's like where you're like wanting to protect yourself and out of the convenience of others, like not even for yourself.
Yeah, for the protecting myself for the convenience of others, so I don't let them fall into this disgusting trap of like, well, women from Laos are so beautiful. Like that's a very specific comment. Like no one talks about women from Laos.
And it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm like a kid. I mean, technically I'm old enough, but like, gross. This is your professor.
Yeah, exactly. To me, when I think, like, the more I think about it, it's just like it's crazy that, especially for you, like, just I'm thinking just like Asian women or even Asian minorities in general, it's like they have to behave a certain way because of who they are for the convenience of others, and that's just
we're
crazy
tired
to me.
of it, you guys. And this podcast is just us being real, us processing our experiences. I've suppressed so much, but I've worked so hard to not categorize people like that professor and categorize people like that girl, because they do have similarities between each other. You know what I mean? But I've been working so hard over these past years to just forgive and like to not. There are some amazing people who look just like them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
definitely.
I can't categorize that.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. We cannot generalize that. And talking about some more of the recent stuff that we've experienced, I think so. Graduated from college, moved out here to the Bay Area.
So weird.
So weird, right? Culture shock, definitely, because
I was like, why are there so many Asian people?
Like Asian Americans here, or consider the majority.
They're everywhere.
I want to say. I
was like amazed by how beautiful it was to just see people who look like me, but I was like uncomfortable a little bit.
Yeah, and I want to touch on an experience that we had, or an encounter, I guess. And just because we're from the Bay Area, and Asian Americans here, Asians here in general, or considered maybe more the majority, does not exempt us from the experiences that we have with, I want to call it subtle racism, or just like subtle, like just like hatred in general.
Yeah.
And so this is a trip at the time when I was working my 9-to-5 job. We went on a trip to Lake Tahoe with my group of like coworkers, and they brought their significant others, and I brought Sopa as well, and there was a group of like 8 of us, and we went to Lake Tahoe, skied and snowboarded the whole day, and then later at night we wanted to go check out the Reno, because Reno is like a 45-minute drive from where we're at.
Yeah,
I'm like, let's go check it out. Let's go check out the casinos or whatever. Just have fun. Just hang out.
Yeah.
And we're all really tired, and so as we're leaving like that hotel or that casino, these 2 guys are standing outside. They're like smoking a cigarette or whatever, just off to the right as we're walking out. And I was the closest one to them as we were walking out. We were walking to our van. I'm getting ready to go back to our place we're staying at. And then I hear one of the guys say, "Yeah, go back where you came from." And I'm in my head, I got instantly angry, like inside, but I really suppressed it. I kept it in. And I stopped and just turned and looked at him and just stared him straight in the eyes and just stared him down. And again, similar to that Purdue story with the truck with the 2 guys driving in, like I was ready to throw hands at that point. And I wanted him to say one more thing just so I had that excuse to do something to him.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we were with my coworkers. I was with Sophie. I was with Sopa, and it's a whole different situation. And it was late at night. We were tired because we were just skiing, snowboarding, the earlier in the day. And I'm like, man, like I just gotta let this go. As angry as I was inside, I just had to let it go, suppress it as much as I could.
We're just always having to suppress it.
And then luckily, and I say luckily because he didn't say anything after that. I just, and I didn't want to like start this big brawl or this big fight, right?
Yeah, that would have been easy.
It would have been bad. It would have ended our night, in a bad way. And I think I was the only one that heard that because everyone kept just like walking into the car. And so I just started him for a good like 5-10 seconds, like just dead into the soul, like ready to do something. And then he didn't say anything. So then I just turned and kept walking. And that's just like the stuff that we have dealt with in our lives.
Yeah.
And that's just like the surface of it.
I mean, that's like one year after another. It's like the
and this is outside of college. Like we already graduated. We're out here in the Bay Area.
And that's like, again, these are like one-off stories, but more things happen. And I'm pretty sure people, there's more stories, but like, the most recent thing that's happened is we were at a store in Texas with our nieces, and there's like 5 of us, clearly all Asian, walk into this beautiful store, this like little gift shop, and the owner,
antique shop, right?
I know, just
gift shop. Oh my bad.
And like, he doesn't acknowledge us whatsoever. And then a crowd of like 10 people who happen to be white walk in. He's like, "Hi, welcome to the store. How can we help you? How are you? Do you want a piece of chocolate as a taste test?" We're like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, I mean, like we just came right before that group, and we're not saying like
we're not expecting this special treatment.
I'm not saying like the guy's racist. I'm not calling that out, but it's just like the stuff that we observe, right?
Yeah, this is how we're treated.
Especially when you're Asian American and the way we grew up. I was the way when I grew up, my dad told me, he's like, you're different. He made me aware of that right away,
Yeah.
just so that I was aware of that. Prepared, and just to notice those things, because that's a really small thing to notice. Like, we're walking in, it's 5 of us. So Pa and I, our nieces, we walk in, not a word. Like, not even a hi, not even like a
don't
greeting.
even acknowledge. They don't even look.
Don't even look. And then
and we're like
another
super
group
friendly.
comes, and they come in and they're like having like this jolly time conversating. Hey, how are you? Can I help you? Like, welcome into the store. And it's like, how come we weren't welcomed?
Yeah, and it was very obvious because more people came and he was talking to them, greeting them. How can we help you? And we would walk in front of the store right by the owner. Zero acknowledgement. The only time someone acknowledged me was this lady walked all the way to the end of the store, looked at me, pretty sure she's making sure wasn't stealing anything, which is annoying, but like she looked at me like this, making sure, everything's okay. I'm not stealing anything. And doesn't even say anything. And I looked at Tommy and all my nieces. I'm like, and my other niece, Cassandra Aku, she's amazing. She's like, oh no, we are like, she was on the same, she's like, did you notice that? Did you realize that? I'm like, yeah. Like all of us are feeling it. And I was like, no one is buying anything from this store. I was like, we got to get out of here. I don't want to support this business. So that was just last week.
Yeah. And that's the most recent thing. And we're not saying it was like a hate crime or anything like that, but it's just,
this is the stuff that happens.
Just the situational awareness that we have. And that's because we grew up Asian American that we have that.
Yeah. And I'm so thankful that we're like aware of our surroundings, because of growing up Asian American, we were taught to like be aware of your surroundings and like, don't be on your phone when you're walking. And like my sister, I don't have anything to show, but my sister like in college, so I would have pepper spray in one hand and then.
So you have like a key.
Imagine this was my key. Right? Yeah. She would have me hold it like this in between my hands. So I literally be walking like this, pepper spray in this, because my pepper spray and my keys are on the same hand, literally with my key in the middle of my hand. So if someone's ready to come, boop, knock them.
Yeah. Well, it's like almost like a makeshift brass knuckles in a way, but it was like pokey. Right?
She's like, yeah, this is what you gotta do. Shout out to my sister for teaching me that.
Hey, but you gotta look out.
You gotta protect your sisters.
Yourself. Look out for yourself.
And the girls in our family and the guys. And so it's like, I'm so thankful to be Asian American, and I love being Asian American now. Yeah. And like, we are taught to know our surroundings, embrace our culture. This is who we are, and nothing can change it. God literally made us this way.
Yeah.
So don't change it, and like embrace who you are.
Yeah, definitely embrace who you are. If you're living in an area and you are the minority, embrace your heritage, embrace your traditions, embrace your culture. Don't try to change for someone else's convenience to make their lives more convenient, because and then suppress who you really are, your self-identity.
Yeah, and I'm so thankful that none of this stuff has been violent, and
oh yeah, very, very lucky.
Yeah, we're so lucky that none of this has been violent, and like we hear and see those who have some of this has been violent just because you're Asian. And whether or not it's because they're Asian, I don't know, but it just happens to be Asian people. It's heartbreaking, and I just want everyone to know that like you can do something about this.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be the one front line on social media educating everybody. If that's not your style, that's not your style.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, like I'm not gonna be that guy or that person to shout at the top of my lungs on social media and just going on a rampage on it. That's just not who I am.
Yeah.
But that like it
it's
doesn't
okay
mean you can't
you
do that
are.
either. If that's who you are, then be who you are.
And I think the message and the moral of all of this is like embrace who you are. Like God created you to be Asian American. Own it, and like don't try
black
to
or Mexican
white, whatever,
or Indian or Middle Eastern
or white, whoever you are. Like just embrace how God made you and educate other people about your culture. Like have other friends and like be open to other people's cultures and like hear their stories. Like reach out to your Asian American friends after listening to this podcast, because most likely they are hurting from this. And if they're not, then they're not, and whatever. But like for us, we have stories to share, and I think it starts with all about having an open heart and curiosity to like, hey, I see all this stuff happening in the news. Like, can you share about your life? You're growing up Asian. Like, I'm just curious.
Yeah, and just come at it in a genuine way, right? Don't just come at it because you were told to, or you think that's like the right thing to do. Like, come out of it, with genuineness.
Yeah, and like Tommy said, he's not the frontline social media person to be like telling people, how to stop Asian hate and how to, be an ally for Asian people. But like, you can also pray if praying is your thing.
Yeah.
We prayed over everything, like what happened and the people who passed away, their families. Yep. Do what you can is basically.
Yeah, I think prayer is a powerful thing for sure, especially praying, within community, praying with each other. Like, when we pray with each other, I just feel there's just a power there that is different when you do pray by yourself. Not saying
Yeah.
one's better than the other, and
just pray with people that you trust.
yeah, we're sending prayers to the event that happened in Atlanta, to those families,
and
the
even the
victims, those
elderly
families,
Asian
the elderly, the Asian American, Pacific Islander community,
we
even
see you
and the
guys.
Asian immigrant community, just the Asian community in general.
We feel you. We are here with you. We stand with you. And, Tommy and I, what we've done after hearing all of this, how we've suppressed so much that now it's like back into the surface and we're like, oh crap, there's like, well, for me, there's like emotions I haven't fully dealt with, right? I've suppressed so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and now it's like all back to the surface again. And now I'm taking it as a whole different thing where I'm like, no, I'm not standing up for this anymore. I'm going to stand up for the people who don't have a voice.
Yes, and so for me, this is a huge eye opener for me.
Yeah.
Like Sopha said, and I think she explained it in a great way, where we suppress, and then it gets to a point, like an event like the Atlanta shooting happens, it brings it all the way back to the top.
Yeah.
And at this point, what I've learned, and this is, going to George Floyd with everything that happened in 2020.
Yeah, and years before.
And years before, it continues to bring it back up, right? And what I've learned is that we cannot stand for injustice. When we see injustice happening in front of our eyes, don't be a bystander. Don't have that bystander effect and expect someone else to jump in, right? Yeah. And I say this with caution because use your judgment. If you see someone getting attacked with a weapon, most likely, personally, I probably wouldn't jump in unless I felt really confident I could disarm the person.
Yeah.
Call the cops. Don't just stand there and expect someone else to do something about it, right?
Yeah.
And, try to neutralize the situation as much as you can.
That's like an extreme one, though.
Yes. So that's an extreme one. But if you see someone, let's say, getting verbally attacked and it's racist, like a racist verbal attack, chances are that person's not going to stand up for themselves. And you got to be that person to stand up for them.
Yeah.
Because they probably need someone to stand up for them.
Yeah.
So when you see injustice happening, just don't let it go by. Just don't be the bystander and just watch it, right? And that's a huge thing for me. Mm-hmm. For me personally, now I have that, right? In my mind, I already made that decision. If I see this happening wherever I am, whoever it is whoever's doing it, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna do what I can to help that person or that situation, right? And I'm gonna use my best judgment in order to do that. I no longer want to be that bystander because I am guilty of that. I'll see something happening and I just stand there and I just kind of watch it, right?
It's also part of the Asian culture to kind of just don't get in trouble, kind of stay in the background.
Don't get involved.
Don't get involved. And it doesn't mean we're going to put ourselves in harm or in danger, but we got to look out for each other. I don't care what skin color you are, who you are. If someone's verbally attacking another girl or something at a grocery store, I'm like, hey, relax, chill out.
Yeah.
Leave her alone.
It's a human looking out for another human.
Yeah. And I think that's all it is. That's just what it is. I think moving forward, if we see injustice happening, do something about it.
Yeah. Stand up
whatever
against
you're
it.
comfortable
Stand
with.
up against it.
Honestly, just call 911. That's the easiest thing if you see something happening.
You can, yeah.
Yeah.
If the situation calls for it.
Yeah. So we hope that, if you guys want to continue this conversation with us, we'd love to. Just message us, comment below. If you see us in person, we'd love to share and hear your experiences.
Yeah.
If you're Asian American or not, how are you processing all of this? Is this a surprise to you? Is this not a surprise to you? We just want to have an honest conversation and just connect with you guys deeper because all of our stories are so unique, and that's the beautiful thing.
Yes, it is. And just one more thing before we wrap up is we just want to send prayers out to what happened in Boulder, Colorado as well. Yeah. I think it just happened a few days ago, from this recording. And, from what I know from what I read so far, it's, a shooting in a grocery store, I believe.
Think so.
And I think the number was 10 people were killed in that. So we're sending prayers out to the victims' families and to everyone who is involved. It's a tragic thing. It just feels like it's one after another, and it just continues just to come way down. I feel like on our nation, and it's hard, and there's a lot of stuff we're processing.
Yeah,
and it just feels like we're not getting a break. Right? We had the George Floyd thing happen, and all of that stuff. Right in 2020 with the pandemic too, and this has just been a really tough season.
Yeah, tough year.
It's definitely a roller coaster. We feel like things are getting better and then kind of goes down. And then it's kind of back up and then it's kind of down.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
So we see you guys, and that's why we created this podcast. We just want you guys to just come here, come as you are, listen, and learn. We can learn from each other. If you guys have made it this far, thank you so much. It really does mean the world. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you guys don't miss out on any videos that we upload. We have more fun videos coming. I know we've been saying that, but like it's coming. It's coming.
Yep.
Yeah. And don't forget to give it a thumbs up and comment below. Also, if you're watching on Apple Podcasts, listening on Apple Podcasts, shout out to you guys for all the listeners. Don't forget to also subscribe and give us a rating because we want to know how we're doing and if you guys like it or if you don't.
Yep. So let's continue the conversation down below in the DMs or wherever, or, text us. And this is a win-win podcast where we upload an episode every Wednesday. And my name is Tommy Nguyen.
And I'm Sopa Nguyen.
And peace out. We see you guys next week.
Bye.